This podcast contains descriptions of violence against children and adult language and is not suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Hi everyone, and welcome to Suffer the Little Children, the podcast giving voices back to the victims of child abuse murder and their families. I'm your host, Lane, and this is episode 193, Dakota Levi Stevens, Part 1. On April 25, 2024, 10-year-old Dakota Levi Stevens was rushed to the hospital in Valparaiso, Indiana, unresponsive. He was placed on life support, but his brain had been deprived of oxygen for too long, and after 2 days, Levi died. His foster mother, Jennifer Lee Wilson, admitted to police that in an attempt to control his behavior, she had laid her 341-pound body on top of the 91-pound boy. Surveillance camera footage proved that Levi lay motionless under Jennifer for over 8 minutes before she moved, asking if he was faking. This is the story of a joyful, creative, lively little boy who loved Pokemon, Minecraft, bugs, and his little sister. It's also the story of a broken-hearted family who wanted only to protect Levi, but weren't given the chance by a state system that has failed far too many children. This is part 1 of the heart-wrenching story of Dakota Levi Stevens. When I first heard what happened to Levi, I thought immediately of 13-year-old Jonathan Carey, whose story I covered last year in episodes 177 through 179. Both of these boys were suffocated by their caregivers using criminally improper restraint techniques, and they were both old enough to know what was happening to them. They also both had some level of special needs, and sadly, as I've said before, that makes kids more susceptible to being abused. Let's get started. Dakota Levi Stevens was born at 4:49 a.m. on October 21, 2013, in Munster, Indiana, to a young couple, Gabby and Cody. In honor of his great-grandfather, whose middle name was Lee, the baby's family called him Levi, and at their request, I'll be doing the same throughout the episode. Levi's mom, Gabby, went through a long, difficult labor with him, and in the end, Levi was delivered via emergency cesarean section. His Aunt Anna later wrote that he looked like a beautiful little baby Ninja Turtle. Levi was an adorable boy with dirty blonde hair, blue eyes, and a smile that melted hearts. When he was about a year and a half old, his parents welcomed a daughter, who I'll call NS. Unfortunately, Gabby and Cody struggled with drug addiction. On May 3, 2018, when Levi was 4 and his little sister 3, the Indiana Department of Child Services stepped in and removed the kids from their parents' custody due to concerns about Gabby and Cody's issues with drugs. Levi and NS were in DCS custody for about 2 weeks before, in May, they were placed in the home of their Aunt Anna Parrish, Gabby's sister. Anna had the kids for the next year. She later said that Levi brought a lot of joy to everyone he encountered. His eyes popped open in the morning and he was go, go, go. His passions were digging for bugs and playing outside with his sister. Anna later remembered that summer days with Levi involved bug hunting, of course, digging in the dirt, going to the park, walking the dog, didn't matter as long as Levi was outside. He loved to play outside. Levi was content playing or digging independently. He was very good about staying in sight and away from the road. He knew what was safe and wasn't. He would get all hot and dusty and would come swinging the door open, running to get something to eat or drink. You know how kids drink all fast and are out of breath afterwards? That was him. Dirt on his face and water dripping from his mouth. He didn't need to wash his hands or face because he was just going back outside to dig more. Around this time, Levi started having some troubles at school. He had a hard time following directions, and he started displaying some aggression toward peers and teachers. Considering what he'd already been through in his short life, that's not entirely unexpected. Still, he and NS were well cared for and showered with love in Anna's home. Levi and NS were already attending DCS-ordered therapy sessions twice a week. On top of that, the kids had school, as well as 2 days per week of visitation with their parents. Anna, who worked at an elementary school, found herself missing a lot of work due to Levi's behavior issues. When she mentioned Levi's school troubles to a caseworker, DCS told her to increase the therapy sessions to more than twice a week, which Anna thought was excessive. She later said, "They didn't have time to be children." The kids' case was seen in court on May 15, 2019, for a routine case review. Before the hearing date, Anna asked their DCS family case manager, Claudia Rogers, if her attendance was required at the hearing. Anna said she had already missed a lot of work, and her school was conducting state testing that day, so they were counting on her to be present. Claudia told Anna she could skip the hearing because it was just a review, and she would update Anna afterward with anything of note. Apparently, at the hearing, someone brought up Anna's so-called refusal of therapy. Remember, the kids were attending therapy twice a week. She just felt more than that was unnecessary. If she had any idea how severe the consequences of this would be, Anna would surely have attended the hearing. Because she didn't have the chance to explain her reasoning to Lake County Juvenile Judge Jeffrey Miller, who, even though the kids were happy, healthy, and surrounded by loving, supportive family, ordered Levi and NS removed from their aunt's home and placed into foster care. Anna was blindsided when she received a phone call from DCS telling her to have the kids ready to leave her home by 5 p.m. the very same day. Imagine how traumatizing this must have been for these poor kids. Out of nowhere, they were ripped away from everyone they knew and loved, again. Levi's maternal grandma, Melissa Mailer, later said, "Levi was never traumatized until he got in the system. One day he woke up and nobody he loved was around him no more. He was only 5 years old." A number of family members, including grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins, fought to have Levi and NS placed with them so they didn't have to go into foster care. According to Levi's cousin, Logan Mills, Judge Miller didn't want Dakota placed with anyone from Dakota's biological family, that we were not fit to care for him, no matter who it was. After the kids were removed, their biological family was essentially ignored. DCS wouldn't give them any information or updates about the kids, or even take their calls, and neither the agency nor Judge Miller considered any of the family's opinions or suggestions about the children's placement. For whatever reason, Judge Miller clearly had an axe to grind against the family. It may have something to do with the fact that when Gabby and Cody were teenagers, Judge Miller dealt with them when they coincidentally both faced petty runaway charges. They didn't know each other at the time. The family feels this should have been considered a conflict of interest. When the DCS case involving the couple crossed his desk, Judge Miller should have recused himself. It's possible his past dealings with Cody and Gabby influenced his decisions in the DCS case, making him see the family in a negative light no matter who tried to adopt or get custody of the kids. Unfortunately, the family's request for a new judge to take over the case was denied. Soon after they were taken from Anna, the kids were placed with foster parents Hayden Hetzel and Milena Blanchard in their Hammond, Indiana home. Fortunately, Levi and NS were also surrounded by love and support in Hayden's home throughout their 2 years there. Hayden's family became the children's family too. The Hetzels adored Levi and NS so much that they hoped to adopt them. Hayden even had the kids' initials tattooed on his leg. Hayden and Milena eventually ended their relationship, though, and the adoption attempt fell through, which, according to Hayden, he found out the hardest possible way. One evening, out of the blue, a DCS representative texted him to let him know that a magistrate had ordered Levi and NS removed from the Hetzel home. The agency did just that, immediately taking custody of the kids, and Hayden said he never found out exactly why it happened. This time, for whatever twisted reason, Judge Miller's order separated Levi and NS, who, at just 18 months apart, were each other's best friends. I can't imagine how devastating that was for both of them. When members of the kids' biological family tried to obtain custody or adopt them, the judge refused. During my research, I read in a number of places that at some point Gabby relinquished her parental rights, but according to the family, that's not the case. After the kids were taken, Gabby complied with the court orders. She completed not one but 2 different rehab programs, and she kept up with her visitations. She wanted her kids back and put in the required work. As I've mentioned before, though, addiction is a brutal disease. Gabby and Cody, who had been apart for some time, met up again, and Gabby unfortunately relapsed. Lake County Senior Judge Thomas Stefaniak, Jr. terminated Gabby and Cody's parental rights to both of their children. Ultimately, NS was adopted by a loving family, while Levi remained in the system, shuffling from foster home to foster home. He also spent some time in mental health facilities, where he was heavily medicated and sometimes restrained. Meanwhile, Levi's family never gave up on trying to care for him. When they once found out he was staying at DeMar Behavioral Health Services in Indianapolis, the family sent checks in the form of donations. They wanted the facility workers and DCS workers to know that they were thinking of Levi and were invested in his well-being even if he couldn't be in their care. Amidst all of this tragedy, another loomed large. Gabby and Cody had moved to North Carolina, still struggling with their demons. On September 14, 2021, Dakota D. Cody Stevens lost his battle with drug addiction, dying in a North Carolina hospital from a related blood infection at the age of just 27. He was cremated in North Carolina before he was returned to his family in Indiana, where they held a funeral for him. His son, Levi, was not allowed to attend. I'll pause here for a word from my sponsors. For a week in 2022, Levi was placed again with Hayden Hetzel, at which point Hayden mentioned to DCS that Levi seemed to do best when he was placed in a home without other children. He was thriving in an environment with no kids. What they did was keep placing him in homes with other kids. At the end of the day, he was a kid who just wanted to be a kid. But of course, Judge Miller denied Levi's placement with Hayden yet again for unknown reasons. According to Hayden, Dakota begged for a while to come back because he felt safe and happy at our home. Instead, Levi continued to move from foster home to mental health facility to foster home. It's no wonder Levi was diagnosed with reactive attachment disorder, which is a rare condition in which kids don't form healthy emotional bonds with caregivers. It's most common in kids under 5 who've experienced physical or emotional neglect or abuse, but it can also occur in older children, especially if a child has several different parental figures, as Levi did during the game of foster home musical chairs he was forced to play. Other causes include experiencing multiple traumatic losses early in life, which Levi did, or being taken from their primary caretakers after forming emotional bonds, which happened to Levi not just once, but at least 3 times, with his parents, his Aunt Anna, and Hayden's family. At some point, Levi also received an autism diagnosis, but his family has never seen any documentation of this diagnosis, and a lot of its symptoms can overlap with those of RAD. The symptoms of RAD can vary from child to child, but common symptoms include emotional dysregulation, extreme anger, throwing tantrums, self-control problems, and rule breaking as a way to find something, anything, they can control in their situation. On April 5, 2024, Levi was placed into the Valparaiso home of foster parents Robert and Jennifer Wilson, who lived on the 200 block of Falcon Way in the Eagle Ridge subdivision. The family had briefly provided respite or temporary care for Levi about 2 years before. They had 3 adopted sons who they had formerly fostered. Robert was the principal of Lake Ridge New Tech Middle School in nearby Gary, and Jennifer worked as a DCS contracted home-based care manager and visit supervisor. Levi's family was ecstatic when they found out he was being placed with the Wilsons, who they had known for many years and considered family friends. Jennifer's father, Wally Hacker Sr., was even the best man in the wedding of Bonnie and Tom Parrish, the adoptive parents of Gabby, Anna, and their brothers Greg and Alex. After Levi was placed with the Wilsons, Jennifer often texted pictures and updates to Levi's grandma Bonnie. After being in the dark for so long, it was a relief to know how Levi was doing. Bonnie and her family sent Jennifer money to help pay for expenses like glasses, pizza, or anything else Levi needed. The Wilsons were an upstanding family, and Levi's family trusted them. He seemed to be in good hands. Things aren't always what they seem. Not even 3 weeks after Levi's placement with the Wilsons, on the afternoon of April 25, 2024, Porter County 911 received a call reporting an unconscious 10-year-old who wasn't breathing.
For you to interrupt the Falcon Way. Patient is 10 years of age. Call advice the patient was gurgling. We're starting CPR.
1907 responding Falcon Way.
You're in route 39 responding for 10-year-old patient, not conscious, not breathing. CPR initiated.
Check 142. Do you have an AED?
Affirmative.
10-4, grab it.
10-4, I'm pulling up now.
Neighbors who were outside watching the tragedy in real time saw two women on the lawn that morning, Jennifer Wilson and a neighbor performing CPR on Levi, who was pale, blue-lipped, and not breathing. Another neighbor, a firefighter, rushed over to help, taking over CPR until first responders arrived. Porter County Sheriff's officers on the scene observed bruises on Levi's lower neck and chest area. EMS rushed Levi to Northwest Health Porter Hospital in Valparaiso, where a CT scan revealed severe brain swelling consistent with being deprived of oxygen for an extended period of time. From there, Levi was flown to Memorial Hospital in South Bend, where he was placed on life support. A probable cause affidavit, later issued by the Porter County Sheriff's Office, stated that when they arrived on the morning of the incident, Jennifer was visibly distraught. She told officers that she and Robert had been ready to stop fostering kids now that their adopted boys were older and they wanted to travel. However, they decided to take Levi in, she told police, because they had once provided respite care for him. Jennifer told police that Levi had verbal and physical aggression issues and that he woke up agitated that morning. Later, when he and one of the other kids were playing with Nerf guns in the house, Jennifer reminded them they weren't allowed to run in the house, but they could play outside after doing their chores. Levi resisted, she said, and when she told him he couldn't go outside unless he did his chores, Levi told her he was leaving and left the house. Jennifer told officers that Levi had never run out like that before, so she let him cool off for 5 minutes. When she checked the backyard for him, he wasn't there, and she got into the car to look for him. Jennifer found Levi up the street, talking to a neighbor he'd never met before, Jill House Rainbolt. Jennifer told Levi to get in the car, but he refused. When Jill mentioned that Levi had asked her to call the police and his caseworker, Jennifer said she responded that Jill didn't know the situation and should mind her own business. Nevertheless, Jill did contact the DCS hotline, where a representative told her to give Levi back to his foster parent, which she reluctantly did. Eventually, Jennifer coerced Levi into the car. When they arrived at the Wilson home, she told police, Levi refused to get out of the car, so she opened the back door where he was sitting. According to Jennifer, Levi began screaming, telling her once again that he was leaving. Court documents read, Wilson stated that when she attempted to stop him from leaving, she does not know if she tackled Dakota or they fell to the ground. However, her intention was to hold him. However it happened, Jennifer told investigators, Levi ended up face down on the ground, and she laid on his midsection and called his caseworker. The phone call, by the way, was not a call for help. Jennifer didn't call to ask the caseworker how to help Levi, to request respite care or other resources, or any such thing. She called to notify Levi's current family case manager, Ciara Boatner, that the neighbor, Jill, had called the DCS hotline so that Ciara would be aware of the incoming complaint. Jennifer had the forethought to get in front of that potential problem, but apparently not to foresee what would happen to Levi if she continued crushing him. Later, prosecutors would use this phone call as evidence of Jennifer's conscious awareness of her guilt. During that phone call, Ciara heard Levi's screams and was aware that Jennifer was on top of him, but the case manager, a mandated reporter, did nothing to stop it and never reported the incident as possible abuse. Jennifer also told police that while holding Levi down, she had a brief conversation with her husband through the Ring doorbell camera, telling him Levi was having one of his days. It's worth mentioning that as a school staff member, Robert Wilson was also a mandated reporter, which means he had a legal obligation to report any child abuse or neglect he witnessed or suspected. He saw his wife, who outweighed Levi by about 250 pounds, crushing this little boy with her body weight. I'd say that constitutes child abuse under Indiana law, which states that child abuse occurs when the child's physical or mental health is seriously endangered by the act or omission of the child's parent, guardian, or custodian. For the record, according to her driver's license, 4'11" Jennifer weighed 340 pounds. Levi weighed 91 pounds at 4 feet 10 inches tall. He didn't stand a chance. I also think it's worth mentioning that there are much safer ways to restrain children to protect them from hurting themselves or others. No safety hold is completely safe, but I can't think of one less safe than putting the child face down on the ground and parking the weight equivalent of a full-grown male giant panda on top of him. As someone who is supposedly professionally trained to work with kids with emotional and behavioral issues, Jennifer had to know this kind of restraint was dangerous for obvious reasons, but she did it anyway. Look, I understand that it can be challenging to deal with children who have these kinds of issues. I raised one myself. But I also know that kids with special needs are abused at a disproportionately high rate. These kids take a lot, and I mean a lot, of patience. Their caregivers need to stay mindful of their own stress levels, and if they find themselves getting frustrated enough to consider raising a hand to the child, they need to seek help immediately. There are resources out there to help. Jennifer told police that she pinned Levi on the ground while holding her phone with one hand and bracing herself with the other. She claimed she laid on Levi for about 5 minutes to get him under control, and during that time, he eventually stopped moving. When she got off Levi, after she became out of breath due to her weight, Jennifer told them, she asked him repeatedly if he was faking. When she rolled Levi over, Jennifer told police, his eyelids looked pale, and she began CPR and called 911. Police spoke with the neighbor, Jill House-Rainbolt, who encountered Levi earlier that morning, about 30 minutes before emergency vehicles rolled up at the Wilson home. Jill told them that Levi, who she had never met before, had approached her and asked her to adopt him, saying his parents hit him in the face and wouldn't let him call his caseworker. Jill said she didn't see any physical signs that Levi was hurt. He also asked her to call the police or his caseworker. He didn't know his caseworker's phone number, but he did know that calling the DCS hotline would, with any luck, trigger a DCS investigation. Instead, the DCS rep who answered the phone advised Jill to release Levi to Jennifer, the subject of his complaints. Jill later wrote in the Honoring Dakota Levi Stevens Facebook group, "I did not meet Dakota until the day that monster killed him. He came to me for help, and I really did try. I had no idea the outcome that would happen. I will always apologize for not trying harder. I know we are trying not to talk about the bad, so I wanted to come here to say that Dakota has changed my life forever. He was very sweet, even in a bad situation. He has taught me how strong I can be. Dakota also brought me closer to neighbors because of this situation. He truly brought people together even after his death. I wish I could have saved you, Dakota. In so many ways, you have saved parts of me I didn't know I needed. We will change the world to be a better place because of you. I may not have known you long, but you have a huge part of my heart." Deputies asked Jennifer for footage from their home's Ring camera, and she later sent them the videos. One clip started with Jennifer lying across Levi's prone body near his neck and head. Levi's screams were audible for the full 20-second duration of that clip. Another 20-second clip showed Levi crying and screaming with Jennifer still on top of him, her right arm and elbow bracing her on the ground. In another video, Jennifer lay on top of Levi, whose arms were stretched out over his head. He didn't move during the entire 6-minute, 48-second video, as well as a subsequent video of unknown length. Finally, in a fifth clip, Jennifer had climbed off Levi, saying his name repeatedly as if to catch his attention or wake him. He didn't answer, however, and Jennifer began screaming his name and told one of her other kids to call 911, saying, "I was laying on him and he was acting bad." You know, sometimes it's hard to focus while covering these cases. The research, the writing, the emotional weight, it's a lot. But now I feel more in control of my energy and mental clarity. I've been drinking Magic Mind daily for 3 months now, and I can honestly say it's made a huge difference in my focus and mental stamina. Instead of feeling emotionally and physically drained halfway through the day, I stay sharp, clear, and focused, even when I'm working on difficult stories like Levi's. For me, it's not just about getting through the work, It's about staying present and giving each child's story the attention it deserves. And honestly, that's why I've stuck with Magic Mind for so long. I highly recommend it, because before Magic Mind, I used to hit a wall after burying myself in court documents, news articles, and various research materials. And that's not even counting the writing process, recording, or the bane of my existence, editing the audio. It's awesome because now my brain doesn't feel like mashed potatoes by the end of the day. You can use my code BYLANE20 or go to my link magicmind.com/BYLANE20 to get up to 48% off a subscription or 20% off a one-time purchase. That's magicmind.com/BYLAINE20. Discount code BYLAINE20. And remember, supporting my sponsors helps me keep this show going. Now, I'll take another quick sponsor break. While Levi was treated in the emergency room at Porter Hospital, an officer went to the hospital to take photos of Levi and collect evidence. The officer spoke with a doctor who told him that Levi had severe brain swelling and was going to be airlifted to the Children's Hospital in South Bend for more specialized treatment. At the hospital in South Bend, doctors determined that Levi had no chance of recovering. After 2 days, without consulting Levi's biological family, DCS made the decision to withdraw life support. It was their legal right to do so because, thanks to Judge Miller, no one in the family had parental rights. But I find it morally despicable that DCS didn't even have the kindness in their heart to notify the family so Levi could have taken his last breath surrounded by people who loved him. At 5:36 a.m. on April 27, 2024, Dakota Levi Stevens was pronounced dead at just 10.5 years old. Still, DCS didn't inform the family. They found out instead from Hayden Hetzel, who found out there was an incident and Levi didn't make it. He reached out to Levi's grandma Melissa, although he had no details and wasn't even positive what he was told was true. Levi's grandma Bonnie reached out to Jennifer Wilson, who ignored her calls. They finally got her to answer when a family member called her from a blocked number, although she refused to answer any of their questions about Levi or what happened to him. She was so uncooperative and evasive that the family had no choice but to conclude it was true. Levi was gone. Levi's biological grandpa, George Stevens, took to Facebook on April 29th, writing, "Okay, Facebook people, I need help. My grandson, Dakota Levi Stevens, was in DCS custody. We just found out that my grandson is dead. Can't get any help through DCS or information. Worst of all, there's nothing on the news about it. And supposedly, whoever was taking care of him somehow suffocated him in the process of getting control in some type of fit that he was having. He ended up going to the hospital, put on life support, found out he was brain dead, and they pulled the plug and he died. And I can't get any information to clear any of this up or be able to attend my grandson's funeral through the DCS office." Other family members posted on social media as well, but many of them were too distraught to speak publicly or discuss Levi's passing with reporters. Desperate for answers, some relatives contacted news station Fox 59, trying to find out what really happened to their lively little boy.
We have not heard anything from police.
Anna told the reporter that the last time she saw Levi was in 2019.
He was wonderful. Wonderful doesn't even cover it. He loves to bug hunt, and he would tell all the bugs when he caught them, "Don't worry, I'm your Uncle Levi. I'm going to take care of you."
I don't know if I've ever heard anything cuter than Uncle Levi. Former foster father Hayden Hetzel and his mother, Sabrina, spoke with Fox 32 Chicago about Levi.
He deserves justice. I mean, this kid was dealt a wrong hand at life. He could talk your ear off, honestly.
He loved dancing. He loved singing. He loved investigating for bugs. He loved being outside. He was just a 10-year-old little boy. He died in the hands of foster care. He had a smile that just made you forget everything.
Hayden told WGN 9.
Dakota, he was very adventurous. He always loved being outside, looking for bugs in the backyard. He never didn't call me dad. He was always like, "Dad this, dad that, let's go on a walk." And we just want the system to be better. He was always loved, and all of us wanted him. We all wanted him, no matter what. We just wanted him safe, happy, healthy, and loved. When they hear his name, I just want them to know, how strong he was.
On social media, Hayden wrote in tribute to Levi, "I have and will continue to love you with every part of my heart. I hope the time that I had you, I was able to show you what a good man should be, and I hope you took and lived every day like it was your last, even if it was cut short. Your memory will live on, and I will make damn sure everyone knows you, knows your story, knows the wonderful human being and soul you were. I'm glad I got to take you for your first real haircut last year at the barber shop. I'm glad I had you for the almost 3 years that I did, and the 1 week that I had you last year. Thank you for the laughs, the cries, the sleepless nights, the endless memories. Your excitement and passion for anything that you did and put your mind to amazed me." Sabrina, Hayden's mom, posted several photos of Levi on Facebook, writing, "This sweet, curious, loving, precious boy called me Grandma for 2 years. He was a huge part of our lives and family. We love him so much. He always wanted to be outside doing investigations, he called them, searching for clues and bugs. He brought so much joy and a ton of laughter into our home and hearts. I once told him, 'Grandma Sabrina will always love you, buddy, no matter what or where you are. Can you make me a promise to always remember that?' He said, 'Yes, Grandma Sabrina, I will always remember.' Well, sweet boy, I love you, always have, and always will. No one can hurt you now." Hayden's sister Hallie also posted, writing, "My brother and his ex-partner took Dakota and his sister into their home back in 2019, and from the time they had him until 2021, I watched a broken and sad child grow and flourish into an amazing, funny, and gifted, wonderful boy. I have so many happy memories of Dakota during these years, and despite any hard times, he was always given love and respect, because that's what he deserved. This situation is gut-wrenching, and I'm furious. No child, no matter the situation, deserved what happened to Dakota. I'm so happy that I got to know Dakota because he truly was one of the most amazing kids I've ever met. I'm grateful that while he was here, he got to know my brother and the rest of my family. His memory should live on as the happy and silly boy that he was, and I hope he's up in heaven going on many long adventures, looking for clues because he loved that. The system, without a doubt, failed Dakota Levi Stevens." By this time, Levi's biological family had been trying and failing to get any solid answers about his death and were hearing some concerning things about how he died. They called Porter County Police and DCS but couldn't get the answers they needed. The police were kind and respectful, Anna said, but DCS avoided them or answered their calls and said they'd have a supervisor call back, which never happened. To add insult to injury, when the family contacted DCS to ask if they could have Levi's body to arrange his funeral, DCS refused, saying they had no rights to him. They were also told that the biological family wouldn't even be allowed to attend the funeral. Neighbors, some of whom witnessed Jennifer crushing the life out of Levi, told reporters, "Dakota was a good kid that was just dealt a bad hand in life." Brian Heineman, Deputy Director of Communications for the Indiana Department of Child Services, said in a statement, "Our entire staff is heartbroken by this news. DCS works with stakeholders and partners across the state to investigate the death of a child anytime there is suspected abuse or neglect and will take the appropriate action. DCS foster parents must complete intensive training and education to achieve licensure. Licensure is re-examined each year to ensure the foster family continues to meet DCS requirements, including additional training each year to maintain this license. DCS policy also addresses termination of licensure, which includes circumstances where a foster parent or member of the household has been substantiated for abuse or neglect." He added that Jennifer's foster license was on hold pending revocation and that she currently had no children in her home. Her license was ultimately revoked on June 30th, 2 full months after Levi's death. Another DCS spokesperson told the Post-Tribune in an email about Jennifer and Robert Wilson's home, "The death of a child is devastating for everyone, especially for those who knew and loved that child. The foster home was licensed in 2017 and was in good standing." This was far from the first time DCS had failed an Indiana child. I've told the stories of more kids from Indiana than almost any other state. In fact, only 3 weeks before Dakota died in Valparaiso, 5-year-old Kinsley Welty died in Indianapolis after being starved in a closet for months. DCS had plenty of contact with Kinsley's family as well. I told Kinsley's story in November with the help of her great-aunt Carrie in episode 184. And of course, if you've listened to this podcast for any length of time, you probably know the story of 4-year-old Judah Morgan, who died in October 2021 after DCS dropped the ball, preventing him from being adopted by his loving foster family and returned him to his biological parents, who tortured him to death. Those are just a couple of recent examples. It's obvious something needs to be done about Indiana's child protection, foster care, and family court systems. The family desperately wanted to plan a funeral for Levi and continued trying to convince DCS to allow it. Anna had to point out a section in the DCS caseworker manual under Chapter 8, Section 49, titled Funeral and Burial Services for a Child in Out-of-Home Care, which states, if the biological family is willing and able to assume responsibility for the funeral, burial, and cremation, they should be encouraged to do so. Eventually, DCS did allow the family to plan a funeral for Levi, which would take place on Monday, May 6, 2024. The day before that, however, DCS held its own funeral service, which the family was told not to attend so they wouldn't risk losing the opportunity to hold their own funeral. Attendees at the DCS service included Levi's family case manager, other DCS employees, therapists, and Levi's sister with her new adoptive family. NS gave a short speech about her older brother, who she hadn't seen in person in over 2 years. Oh, one more person had the audacity to attend the DCS funeral. Lake County Juvenile Judge Jeffrey Miller came to pay his respects. Too bad he didn't show the same care and compassion when Levi was alive. DCS transferred custody of Levi's body to Nicole and Daniel Rubalcava, his maternal great-aunt and uncle, so the family could finally lay him to rest. The funeral service the family arranged was held on May 6th at Geisen Funeral Home in Crown Point. The day before, Levi's Aunt Anna, his favorite teacher Amber Tarnowski, and great-aunt Nicole, who worked for the funeral home, were allowed to set up and decorate for the funeral. The day of, many mourners wore white T-shirts that bore Levi's photo with the caption, Forever 10. On the back was printed, Loved beyond words, missed beyond measure. Outside the funeral home, Milena Blanchard, Hayden Hetzel's ex-partner and Levi's former foster mom, cried as she told a Post-Tribune reporter, He was so kind. He had a beautiful laugh and a beautiful smile. Although Levi was only 5 when she and Hayden took him in, Milena said, His personality showed from the day we got him. Even all the trauma he'd been through, he still managed to see the good in things. He was troubled, he was hurt, but his soul was beautiful. Inside the chapel were boards covered with countless pictures of Levi. One board displayed his schoolwork, including a yellow woven potholder and an essay from February 22, 2022, in which Levi wrote, When I'm 22, I will live with Mrs. Tarnowski, my favorite teacher I love so much. I will be tall. I will have 100,000 frogs, a big leopard shark, 500 fish, 2 dogs, and 1 cat. That's what I want to be like when I'm 22 years old. Another school project was a piece about cicadas, on which Levi remarked that they were the best bug in the world. 2 large Lego creations sat near Levi's casket, and Thomas the Tank Engine toys decorated the tables bearing Levi's baby photos. Outside the funeral home, reflecting Levi's love for sharks, the hearse that would carry his casket to the cemetery waited under a massive inflatable shark mouth. Before nearly 100 mourners, Pastor Jamie Constant said, Despite all the hardships he went through, Levi was truly optimistic. Anna spoke at the funeral, recounting the many good times and memories her family had with Levi. Great-aunt Nicole said during the funeral, He didn't deserve this. He was better than a lot of people here. Even if he battled stuff, this kid's heart truly was not made for this world. He taught me so much, he truly did, and I didn't think a kid could teach you stuff like that. Levi stayed with her for a while, she said, and 3 days before he left her home, she said to him, Promise when you make it out of this system, I just want you to tell me everything you make with your Legos. They made a thumb promise over it, she said. She was at work when she found out that Levi was dead, Nicole said, and she cried on the drive home, telling mourners, He came back to me. He made it out of the system. Amber Tarnowski, Levi's second-grade teacher in the Duneland schools during the 2021-22 school year, spoke during the service, saying, "I learned quickly that Dakota was extraordinary." She described Levi as a boy with big emotions who became her heart and soul that year. She remembered Levi being big on fairness, respect, and patience. "I've heard many bad things about what happened to this child. He told me all of it, but it was never about his family. Dakota was his own hero each day, and the reason for that was the foundation from his family. I just need you to know he loved you too, every single day." Levi was laid to rest in the historic Maplewood Cemetery in Crown Point. Time for another quick sponsor break. Also on May 6th at 8 p.m., a candlelight vigil was held at the playground in Liberty Township's Eagle Ridge subdivision, where the Wilsons lived. A local restaurant provided pizza, one of Levi's favorite foods, for attendees, and a neighbor donated over 100 candles. Those candles and attendees' cell phone flashlights lit up the evening as a few of Levi's loved ones spoke to the crowd. Neighborhood resident Pastor David Stovall addressed those gathered in the park, saying, "There are never good words at moments like this. Lord, you know the circumstances. You know the situation. We ask that you would just give peace, Lord, because we don't have the answers." Organizer Monica Jimenez, Hayden Hetzel's aunt, told the attendees, "Everyone came together as a community, and it really means a lot. We just wanted to say thank you, and I know this means a lot for Dakota, too." Hayden said to everyone, "I don't know if anybody knew Dakota, but Dakota would have loved everybody being here together. He would have talked your ear off the whole time." Hayden's mom, Sabrina, also spoke, saying, "We're heartbroken over the events that took place. We're here because we want justice for Dakota. There need to be changes. A child lost his life, and it was senseless. It was a system that was supposed to protect him, and it failed." The St. Joseph's County Medical Examiner's Office released Levi's autopsy results in June 2024, ruling his death a homicide caused by mechanical asphyxia, which takes place when something, such as an object or physical force, prevents someone from breathing. Police believed, based on Ring camera footage, that Jennifer's body weight cut off oxygen to Levi's brain for about 8 minutes. The human brain can only go 4 to 6 minutes without oxygen before brain cells begin to die and permanent damage or death occurs. Hayden Hetzel made a statement to the Post-Tribune, saying, "Now that we have the actual cause of death, the birth family as well as us, his previous foster family and families, would like to see justice be served, not just for Dakota, but for all wrongful deaths that have happened as a result of abuse while in the system. These children deserved much better, and moving forward, I hope this is the stepping stone to a better future and system. I hope that his death does not go unnoticed and causes some changes to be made. May little Dakota rest easy now and finally be at peace once someone is held accountable for these actions." Anna Parrish told the Indy Star, "It absolutely shatters my heart to know that he suffered and his life was taken from him. I'm relieved to know that answers are coming out. Hopefully, justice will be served." 2.5 months after Levi's death, on Friday, June 12, 2024, it was announced that a warrant was issued for Jennifer Wilson, who was being charged with reckless homicide for causing Levi's death. Jennifer was arrested after 8 p.m. the following day in New Buffalo, Michigan, after being located through a license plate reader camera. She was booked into the Porter County Jail in Indiana, and on July 17th, she was released after posting a $20,000 bond. Within a week of Jennifer's arrest, the school where her husband worked in Gary, Indiana, released a social media statement from its superintendent and school board. The statement read, "Lake Ridge New Tech Schools is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all students. Lake Ridge New Tech Schools has been informed of charges made against the wife of the Lake Ridge New Tech Middle School principal, Mr. Robert Wilson. No charges have been filed against Mr. Wilson, nor are any anticipated. Lake Ridge New Tech Schools has not received any reports that would cause suspicion about Mr. Wilson's qualifications as an educator to ensure the safety and security of Lake Ridge students. While we understand that the legal proceedings affect Mr. Wilson's family, Lake Ridge will continue to monitor these proceedings as any determination is made related to Mr. Wilson's wife." The school limited comments on the post. Anna, who was a former Lake Ridge Schools employee of 14 years, attended a school board meeting to raise her concerns about Mr. Wilson's continued employment, which she said violated Lake Ridge's own administrative code of ethics as written in the organization's handbook. Superintendent Dr. Shirley and the school board completely shut Anna down, not allowing her to speak at the meeting, and one school board member even shouted angrily after her as she left the meeting. Levi's loved ones held protests outside the courthouse every month, demanding Jennifer's charges be upgraded from fifth-degree felony reckless homicide to something with a stronger penalty, such as child abuse and neglect. At a protest in late July, cousin Mary Snell told a reporter, "Our voice is his now. She took his voice away. That's all we're trying is to be his voice." In this clip, you can hear Dakota's army chanting "Justice for Dakota" as Jennifer walks out of the courthouse and gets into her vehicle.
Justice for Dakota! Justice for Dakota! 26 years is no enough! Flip me the bird! Flip me the bird! Justice for Dakota!
The group also protested outside Robert Wilson's middle school, the Indiana DCS office, the office of Jennifer Wilson's defense attorney, and even the Wilson home. You'll hear more about the family's push for justice for Levi in Part 2. In September, Porter Superior Court Judge Mary DeBoer oversaw a motion hearing, during which the defense sought to dismiss a no-contact order that was issued on July 31st. That order barred Jennifer from any contact with 2 of her 3 surviving adopted sons who were biological half-brothers but weren't identified in court for their protection. They and Jennifer's other son remained in the family home, where Jennifer and Robert's adult biological daughter had been staying to care for her younger brothers while Jennifer stayed with another adult daughter. During the hearing, Judge DeBoer allowed the Ring camera videos showing Dakota's killing to be admitted as evidence. The judge, the defense, and the prosecution all agreed that the video should remain sealed. Those videos, which I talked about earlier, showed that the boys were present while their adopted mother crushed their foster brother to death. The Post-Tribune reported that Jennifer wept for much of the hearing and that her husband, Robert, broke down on the stand during testimony when he told the court about how being separated from their mother had affected the boys. He said the situation had exacerbated their existing challenges and was especially hard on the middle boy, who had a special bond with Jennifer. The boys were in counseling, he said, while he and his adult daughter tried to maintain their schedule to include school, therapy, and extracurricular activities. They had become depressed and angry and were internalizing their feelings, Robert told the court. Deputy Prosecutor Mary Ryan asked if the kids were acting out because they were separated from Jennifer or, rather, that they watched their brother die. Coldly, Robert replied that their sons didn't think of Levi as a brother. Jennifer's attorney, Amanda Price, objected to the prosecutor's comment, but Judge DeBoer overruled the objection. Robert responded, "It re-traumatized them. I'm talking about abandonment and the loss of people, the general loss." Even though only 2 boys were named in the order, Robert testified that they kept the 3rd boy away from Jennifer as well, adding, "We don't want to jeopardize or break any rules. We've always been rule followers." He and his daughter testified that they wouldn't have any concerns if the boys were with Jennifer. It also came out in court that Jennifer's oldest daughter, Samantha Ponda, a registered emergency room nurse, was inside the Wilson home on April 25th, the day of the incident that ultimately killed Levi. Samantha, who is listed as a witness to the incident in police reports and court documents, did not offer Levi any life-saving assistance, and in fact, she only left the house that day when police told her to do so. If you're keeping score, that's 3 mandated reporters who failed to report that they witnessed Jennifer abusing Levi that day. Principal Robert Wilson, Levi's DCS caseworker, Ciara Boatner, and Samantha Ponda. Jennifer herself was also a mandated reporter. At the end of the hearing, Judge DeBoer ruled against the defense, saying, "I'm going to deny the motion to modify at this point. I'm going to leave it at that right now." Protesters outside the courthouse cheered when they heard the no-contact order would remain in place. The criminal case ended with very little fanfare. In October 2024, Jennifer Lee Wilson pleaded guilty to reckless homicide. In January 2025, Senior Judge Michael Bergerson presided over Jennifer's sentencing hearing. Judge Bergerson requested a photo of Levi from family members who testified. When Levi's Aunt Eva gave him one, the judge propped the photo up on his desk and looked at it throughout the hearing, giving the family a sense that he saw Levi the way they did, as a bright and loving boy whose life was callously taken by Jennifer Wilson. At one point before delivering her sentence, the incensed judge even shouted at Jennifer, "This court will not ignore him like you did." Judge Bergerson then gave Jennifer the maximum possible sentence, 6 years in prison with 1 year suspended to be served on probation, as well as court costs, which amounted to almost $20,000. Upon hearing her mother's sentence, Jennifer's youngest daughter erupted, yelling and making a scene, and had to be forcibly removed from the courtroom, where she continued shouting at Levi's supporters waiting in the hallway. Judge Bergerson's sentencing order listed the following aggravating factors. 1. The victim of the offense was less than 12 years old at the age the person committed the offense. The victim was 10 years old. 2. The person was in a position of having care, custody, or control of the victim of the offense. 3. Defendant applied more force than necessary, amounting to criminal confinement. 4. Defendant's callous disregard for the well-being of the victim while committing the offense, as defendant was talking on the cell phone, talking to the neighbor, and talking to the other foster children. 5. Defendant was oblivious to the fact that she had just killed the child. 6. A lesser sentence would depreciate the seriousness of the crime. Mitigating factors, according to the order, were Jennifer's lack of criminal history, her guilty plea, the remorse she expressed, the unlikeliness that the circumstance was likely to reoccur, and the likelihood of Jennifer responding well to rehabilitation, probation, or imprisonment. Her no-contact order for 2 of her adopted sons was terminated. Jennifer is currently serving her sentence in the Madison Correctional Facility in Jefferson County, Indiana. Less than a month after her sentencing hearing, on February 12, 2025, Jennifer's new court-appointed attorney, Haley McCleary, appealed Jennifer's sentence through the Court of Appeals of Indiana. As of this recording, the Court of Appeals hasn't yet heard or decided on Jennifer's appeal. Currently, a Change.org petition demands the removal of Principal Robert Wilson, Jennifer's husband, from Lake Ridge New Tech Middle School, where he is still the principal despite his wife's guilty plea and imprisonment. Lake Ridge Schools has been radio silent about the matter since their initial statement the week after Jennifer's arrest. Another petition seeks to hold Indiana's Department of Child Services accountable for children's deaths in Indiana's foster care system. Through a third petition, Levi's family seeks help advocating for Levi's Law, which would compel any adult to contact the authorities if a child seeks help from them or reports abuse to them. I'll include the links to all 3 petitions in the show notes. Time for one last sponsor break. Now, let's talk about Levi, because, as I always say, the kids I feature on this show are so much more than the terrible things that happened to them, and Levi's family would much rather remember him for who he was. Dakota Levi Stevens had an amazing personality, something you can tell just by looking through pictures of him. He was very smart, observant, methodical, thoughtful, and logical. His Aunt Anna describes him as wise beyond his years and full of love. Cousin Logan Mills said of Levi, "He was such a smart kid. He was 10 with an IQ of almost 130. Considering the average IQ score is around 100, that is extraordinary. His former foster dad, Hayden, remembered that Levi loved spending time in nature, looking for bugs. He added that Levi dreamed of growing up to be a police officer or a firefighter, loved chicken nuggets and pizza, and enjoyed listening to Katy Perry, building with Legos, using his vivid imagination, and singing and dancing. Anna wrote about her nephew, "Something I adore about Levi, his true and unwavering love for his sister. He was the best big brother. She meant the world to him and was truly his best friend. She could be mean to him, take his toys, knock his Legos over, and he never hit her back. He definitely let her know he was upset, but didn't hit back. He always said boys don't hit girls. They had each other's backs from the start. I know she now has another guardian angel looking over and after her, her big brother, Levi. her eternal protector. When Levi went to the store for snacks with Anna, she said, "He knew the employees, and they knew him by name. He is a very smart shopper and had to make sure he was getting the most for his money. He was thoughtful and said, 'My sister would like this,' or 'This is Grandma's favorite.' He knew what others liked and thought to get them snacks too." A school staff member wrote, "Dakota, your creativity and sense of humor were infectious, and we will miss you dearly. Your breaks in LRC were the best. From building with Legos, talking about Pokemon, or showing us videos of Minecraft, you were always making us smile." Levi's second-grade school bus driver wrote, "He was a sweet boy who loved sharks and bugs and was searching for belonging. He wanted so much to trade Pokemon cards with his fellow bus riders that he once snuck his cards in his shoe so caregivers wouldn't know." A mourner wrote on Levi's online tribute wall, "The few times I was with Levi included football games. I remember him hanging on his Aunt Nicole or Uncle Daniel and Elena. He always had something to say or a fact about an animal, but I remember how much love he radiated." Levi's obituary, written by his Aunt Anna and Great-Aunt Nicole, read, "Dakota Levi Stevens, affectionately known to his family as Levi, age 10, entered in Jesus' loving arms on Saturday, April 27, 2024. Dakota was born on October 21, 2013, in Munster, Indiana. He is survived by his sister and many loving, numerous family and friends. Levi marched to the beat of his own drum. He absolutely loved the outdoors. Many insects and frogs were caught by him on his bug hunting expeditions. He had a love for sharks and believed he would discover a new species. Legos where he could build anything. Minecraft, his Pokemon cards, and his tablet. He loved to use his imagination, and believe me when I say he had a very creative imagination. Levi loved to read and make up his own stories and even act them out. He was a little performer in front of any camera. He loved to sing and dance quirky at any given moment. He loved to play board games and believed he truly won every time. Levi was extremely artistic. He loved drawing and coloring. When it came to schoolwork, he was brilliant, and he truly loved math. School, on the other hand, pretty sure he gave his teachers and staff a run for their money. If you know, you know. Despite it all, his favorite teacher, Mrs. Tarnowski, stood by his side and was a huge inspiration to him. This little guy was a master bargainer who believed strongly in his own opinions, even if they were wrong. Once again, if you know, you know. Levy, as his sister called him, was a great big brother and loved NS tremendously. His happiest moments were with the ones he loved. His smile could light up any room he walked into, and he truly had a huge heart. To know him was to love him. Despite all the hardships Levi went through, he remained optimistic. Our hearts will truly forever be broken. He will be tremendously missed and forever loved by his family, his teacher, Mrs. Tarnowski, friends, and anyone else who was blessed enough to know him." Anna wrote another beautiful, heart-wrenching tribute in the Facebook group. "From day one, I would be counting down the minutes till I was off work and could go see him. As he got older, he would know when I would be getting there to visit him, and he would be waiting at the window. How helpful and sweet he has always been. He would help bring diapers or wipes or throw NS's dirty diapers away. NS and him had a pair of 4th of July flip-flops. One shoe had stars and the other had stripes. NS was convinced they weren't a pair because they looked different. Levi tried to explain to her that was how they went and even tried to teach her how to put the thong of the flip-flop between her toes. Another thing, his love for Thomas. He loved Thomas the train. All Thomas everything or he wasn't having it. Thomas has like 100 friends and Levi knew them all. He knew exactly how many of each character he had and which ones he needed. I saved up to take him to Toys R Us. They had a huge Thomas the Train section. He couldn't believe his eyes. They were as big as quarters. I had a hard time getting him out of there. He wanted a special edition Rainbow Thomas, and I searched on eBay and finally found one and gave it to him for Christmas. He was over the moon, hooting and hollering and running around. Oh, and who could forget the Thomas the Train minis, the mystery bag that had a mini Thomas in it. We got 1 or 3 every single time we went to Family Dollar. My mom still carries one of those minis in her purse. How he wanted to make homemade corn dogs. He said all we needed were hot dogs, corn, and sticks. We were going to mush the corn and dip the hot dogs in it, and we would have delicious corn dogs. How he was such a picky eater. Chicken nuggets, corn dogs, and baked beans were his favorites. Aldi sells a brand of beans named Dakota. He was convinced they were made just for him. How imaginative and creative he was. He loved to sculpt and make creations out of Play-Doh. He practiced and practiced drawing Thomas the Train. He was meticulous and agonized over his Thomas drawings. They had to be the right shade of blue and had to look just right. He would get mad at us because we couldn't draw him good enough. Him and NS loved to pretend and play animals together. She was a kitty and he was a dog named Spooky Dookie. Spooky because he liked creepy stuff like Scooby-Doo and creepy crawly bugs. He was better at my phone than me. He was better at the iPad. The kid was tech-savvy for sure. He knew how to get to YouTube and search Thomas videos and videos of kids playing with Thomas. He created his own profile on my YouTube that I still have on there to this day. He didn't like deep water or swimming. He liked to float or be carried in the pool. He would get mad at us if we splashed him. We would play shark in the pool and he had to be shark every time. And he didn't always keep his eyes closed, but swore they were. He was a cuddle buddy. He would curl them long, skinny legs under him and lay on your lap. He had fluffy, soft hair and liked for you to run your fingers through it and play with it. His dad taught him how to dip potato wedges into cheese and to hold the chip bag up so you can get all the crumbs at the bottom. One time he caught a bunch of worms and put them in a little container. Unbeknownst to me, he forgot the container in the back seat. I couldn't figure out why my car stunk so bad until one day he found the container, a few days old at this point, and opened it up. It was horrible. I was gagging as I was driving, and he was upset and crying because they didn't survive. How excited he was the first day of preschool. He loved going and came home talking about his friends and what they played that day and singing the color songs. The last thing I want to play for you is a clip from a video of maybe 3 or 4-year-old Levi wearing footy pajamas, holding a Thomas toy, and nailing every word to a Thomas song that his grandma Melissa said he learned in a single day.
Everyone knows this today. Oh, train, ghost can be. Now the ghost train, that's the way. Skeletons know that's the point of fun to do. Station next to spooky scene. Fire with his Halloween. Every town and Richmond. Hold with his Halloween. Stop. Hey, fire with his Halloween. Yeah.
Levi's story has hit me unusually hard. He was such a bright, intelligent, funny kid, old enough to know what was happening to him, and that just adds another layer of awfulness to an already awful story. I'll tell you what, I honestly wish I had the opportunity to meet this special little guy even once, and I know his family would give anything in the world to have him back. In part 2, which I'm hoping to get out next week, you'll hear my conversation with Levi's aunt, Anna Parrish, Grandma Melissa Mailer, and Uncle Alex Parrish. I'm a few months behind on my patron shoutouts. Huge thank you to Allie H. from Tucson, Arizona, Jennifer D. from Richmond, Kentucky, Justina K. from Tinley Park, Illinois, Ashley from Los Angeles, California, Danielle G. from Burton, Michigan, Jennifer G. from Exeter, New Hampshire, a different Danielle G. from Cedar Knolls, New Jersey. Hey, I've been there. Renee W. from Friendswood, Texas, Karina B. from Niagara Falls, New York, Lorena W. from Monessen, Pennsylvania, Brenda P. from Manassas, Virginia, Remy B. from Blue Springs, Missouri, Stacy P. from Rancho Cordova, California, and from the great unknown, thank you to Eugenie T. and Leslie. I appreciate you all more than I can tell you. Without you, I couldn't keep this podcast going. If you'd like to help support the show, you can visit patreon.com/stlcpod. My sources for this episode were Geisen Funeral Homes, Fox 59, Region News Source, The Post Tribune, WGN 9 TV, The Indy Star, NBC 5 Chicago, The Chesterton Tribune, Honoring Dakota Levi Stevens on Facebook, the National Children's Alliance, the Indiana Department of Child Services Child Welfare Policy, the Indiana My Case Portal, the Indiana Court of Appeals website, Anna Parrish, and Melissa Mailer. Don't forget to check out Magic Mind and use my discount code. I'll include the link in the show notes, but here's the address again, just in case. Visit magicmind.com/buylane20 and use discount code BUYLANE20 and see what a difference it makes in your life. That's it for this episode. Join me next time for part 2 of Levi's story. If you like the show, please follow or subscribe to Suffer the Little Children on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Spreaker, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast listening app. And please leave me a 5-star rating and a positive review on your favorite podcast platform. Visit the website at sufferthelittlechildrenpod.com. You can support the show by visiting patreon.com/stlcpod, where you can become a patron for rewards ranging from a shout-out by name on the show to exclusive gifts. You can also support the show at ko-fi.com/stlcpod. Follow the podcast on Facebook and Instagram at Suffer the Little Children Pod and on TikTok at STLCpod. View photos related to today's episode on Facebook. This podcast is researched, written, hosted, edited, and produced by Lane. Intro theme music is by Dream Note Music, and all music for the show is licensed from audiojungle.net. For more information about preventing or reporting child abuse, visit childhelp.org or call your area's child abuse hotline. And remember, if you see something, say something.